Hello viewers, this is Martin, also known as the New Haven Holy Roller. As I said, my broadcasts are going to be sporadic. This is actually only my second broadcast, but bear with me. Okay, let's see, what's new? I was reading the New Haven Register and I noticed the editorial page, the opinion page. I think I've just been in the mind of a genius. This is a gentleman named Glenn Kaas, K-A-A-S, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, Kaas. He is a former state attorney and assistant state attorney for 20 years, and he is also, I believe he's a retired Hamden Police Sergeant. No, excuse me. Yes, actually, yeah, Hamden. But anyway, his view, I'm going to paraphrase. He suggests replacing the death penalty with what he calls virtual death. This is interesting. Virtual death, isolation for inmates without parole. Basically, offenders, after their sentencing, they'd be given 1 week for family and friend visitations, and that's it. That is their last time seeing anyone from the outside world. 1 week to visit family and friends, and that's it. No contact with anyone. After that, they would be located to a undisclosed, they would be brought to an undisclosed location. He didn't specify where, obviously. They would also be given an assumed identity, and they'd be kept in a cell for 23 hours and allowed only 1 hour for solitary recreation. Now, as I said, they'd be cut off from the entire outside world, no mail, no phone calls, no visitors whatsoever. Basically, it's assuming like they're dead, except physically, of course, they'd still be alive. The only other information anyone would receive is should the inmate pass away while he's in jail, the next of kin would be notified. So, before you're physically dead, you're personally dead. You're basically gone. You're no longer in contact with the outside world at all. No visitors, no mail, no phone calls. Virtual death. That's what he calls it. And also, according to him, what he says, I don't believe the scheme would violate the 8th Amendment prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment, as the offender would be treated the same as any with death row status. The only difference is that the offender has effectively lost his identity, his family, and his friends. It's pretty much like joining the CIA while you're in prison. You're basically gone. You're gone before you're gone. And honestly, I have to admit, this guy has a point. I can understand his view. It makes perfect sense. As opposed to a society where a lot of protesters are saying that the death penalty is cruel and unusual, and people shouldn't kill. They shouldn't execute people in prison or whatever. I could see his point of view because it makes sense. You're not executing these inmates. That's not what America should be about. But at the same time, the only quibble I have with this, who pays for this? Because taxpayer dollars are being used to keep inmates in prison, basically. So what you're saying is that these people are serving their life sentence. We're paying for these people to stay in jail even though they have no contact with the outside world, right? That's the only quibble I have. Where would the funding for this be? But other than that, I think this guy's right. What he says makes sense, and anyone that has an opinion or a comment, please feel free. I'd love to hear your views. But, as I said, this guy makes sense. It sounds genius, and I have to agree with him. It does make sense. But that's just my opinion. Anyway, this is the Holy Roller signing off. As I said, my broadcasts are going to be sporadic. This is only my second one, and I sort of have a little problem with my throat, so this is short and sweet. But this is the New Haven Holy Roller signing off. Good night.